have a topic from Taylor. Taylor, what do you have for us this week?
All right, I feel like I got to roll up my sleeves for this one here, but because you guys, I'm wondering if you think that esports fans have reasonable expectations, or if esports fans have become a little bit entitled with the game as a service model that a lot of these free-to-play esports games follow. Players have come to expect regular updates, constant free stuff. As you're seeing on the screen right now, this winter map for League of Legends, which has been in demand for a very, very long time. As a result, some of these players have become really entitled and believe that the developers should cater to their every whim. And I think, in like League of Legends, just as an example, that's replays or sandbox mode or the winter map. In Dota, it's DIRETIDE. In the FGC, it's whatever those crazy people want. And at the end of the day, fans simply don't know what it takes to develop a video game and make sure that it works for the millions and millions of players that are playing it. And I think that this is becoming a problem with the audience who are just simply they've become entitled. They're saying like, well, give it to us or we're gonna essentially riot, as the famous Twitch meme goes. So do you guys think that this is a problem for esports fans, or do you think that they're just demanding what they deserve at this point?
I think part of it also, it extends beyond esports and to gamers in general as well. Like it's a video game thing, right? Like we've seen it time and time again. And honestly, like I think they're a minority. They're just very, very vocal. Like a lot of people are happy to sit back and wait for like updates or certain features to come out. Like you said, like the winter or DIRETIDE as well. But the DIRETIDE thing just really, like seeing that happen, grew out of control.
Very bizarre. I mean, it started off as almost a joke.
Yeah.
And then it became this huge thing, and then Valve was like, fine, just take it. Here's the same thing as, just take it.
I mean, I think part of it was also like a meme thing, right? Yeah. Like people were saying it because it was a meme, and like Valve could not tell who like genuinely wanted it and who was just on the meme train for this thing. Like Give DIRETIDE with that little, assy guy, like, and it was just like and people were like emailing Volvo, like the car manufacturer, about this and spamming them as well. And like Valve had to issue a statement being like, please stop like harassing these poor people. Like we're gonna bring out DIRETIDE. I think it's at some points like it's a little bit like, oh, like do we really need it? And the mood wasn't even that great anyway. I'm just gonna say it now. The mood wasn't that great anyway.
Calling out DIRETIDE right now? Is this going to be an issue that we're going to have to take up with Valve later on?
It was fun. It was great, but it didn't really need all this, like, I guess, annoyance or cry out from the community.
Yeah, this is a tough subject for me to talk about because there have been many times where I have explicitly called out Riot for not providing much needed functionality in the game, sandbox mode being an example of that. But then there are so many times where, like, there are just so many petty, like, little things where I've seen the community just react in such a strange way, or like with such expectations and such grand disappointment around something so simple. And so I do think that the environment of like a free-to-play game, and Riot in particular saying they're so player-focused and making their fans expect that they'll get anything they want, it has kind of cultivated this like spoiled brat syndrome, I think, from a lot of the community. And on the other hand, sometimes publishers just not giving them something they need. So
I mean, like, yeah, I do think it's a case-by-case basis for sure. I mean, like, the replay thing, the fact that League of Legends didn't have a replay or sandbox mode, that's still ridiculous that it's not out yet. But I think that takes into account, it doesn't take into account exactly how many hours it takes to implement something like that. Like, you always say like, oh, Riot has an internal replay mode. Well, in order to make that consumer-facing, that's going to require. I mean, I've seen the internal replay mode. It's buggy as hell, barely works. And it's really tough to make that into something that is actually a consumer product that people can actually use. But I was actually curious to talk to you, Michael, because specifically about Street Fighter V, because that has been such a huge, notorious. Yeah, of course it did.
I think there's a couple distinctions to make, though. One is when you're talking about, I guess, the casual player or just players versus maybe some of the professionals. I find that there's a difference in what these players tend to ask for, players versus professionals. But in regards to Street Fighter V, Street Fighter V, even though they're trying a different model, I guess it's still different from some of the other games in that you paid for a product. And yes, when they launched it, it didn't feel like you got your money's worth. From the competitor standpoint, I feel like it had everything that a player needed to compete on the Capcom Pro Tour. From the casual person or casual player standpoint, it needed a lot more, and I think that's what was missing. So I think this idea of like, are they entitled asking for these things? I don't feel that's the case. But I understand that this concept of, and Zorine touched on this, this is sort of a larger issue with gaming in general. People just think that a game comes out, something doesn't work, or they want something in a game, and it's just like, well, the devs just need to flip a switch, and that's how, it doesn't work that way.
Just put more money into it.
Yeah, it's like a Titanic. You're steering a huge ship, and it takes time and money to implement these things, and
so you're
unfortunately
saying
for some games it's hard to recover from that.
That the gaming industry is just headed straight towards an iceberg.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that at the end, me and Dylan Walker will be sitting on a floating piece of wood, and I'll watch him die.
So he's Leonardo
That's
DiCaprio in
Titanic.
this situation.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which one's which here?
Have you not seen
I was
Titanic?
I was waiting to find out which one Travis thought was Leo.
Yeah.
Serene has not seen Titanic.
No,
just
I
so we
have
just
seen
realized.
Titanic.
I actually
As
have
an
not
esports
Titanic.
fan, my reasonable expectation is that Serene has seen Titanic. Whatever.
Makes sense.
I'm meeting your
I think we're done with this topic. Either way,
Are you bored so soon?
well, I mean, as soon as we start talking about Titanic.